Roll call, Julie, please.
Sure. Member Thompson.
You see me take a drink, and that's why you called me first.
Here. I did. Member Erickson.
Buck is here.
Member Woolrab.
Here.
Member Barnett.
Present.
Member Friedrich.
I'm here.
Member Lehman.
Present.
And Chairman Metzger.
Yes, I am present. We've got approval of meeting minutes for January 6th regular meeting. Can I have a motion? We have a motion by member Woolrab and a second by member Lehman. Is there any discussion? Doesn't appear there's any discussion. Julie, could we have a roll call vote, please? And I will be voting this evening.
Thank you. Member Thompson.
Yes.
Member Erickson.
Yes.
Member Woolrab.
Yes.
Member Barnett.
Yes.
Member Friedrich.
Yes.
Member Lehman.
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. All right. Motion passes. Do we have number 3, any appearances by the public or county employees?
Chairman Metzger, this is Administrator Rodriguez, and we do not have any appearances by members of the public.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to departmental matters. We will start with Marshall Thompson. That's 4A. Doesn't appear she has any items to be presented. However, she did present monthly reports. Marshall, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I hope everyone's doing well. Does anyone have any questions regarding my reports? I don't see any hands. So you may have noticed that a couple of large purchases were completed by Animal Control, and I just wanted to get a little bit of information about that. The hydrostatic sprayer is a great no-touch cleaning alternative to cover large amounts of areas, including the small cracks and crevices where viruses and bacteria can be hard to disinfect. And because we're an animal control facility, you have to take into consideration zoonotic diseases like parvo, distemper, and COVID. These can affect the shelter and the overall health of the animals within the facility. Our staff does clean the facility 365 days a year, and this equipment has helped tremendously in protecting the animals, employees, and the public. Does anyone have questions about that particular purchase before I move on to the next one?
Looks like we are good. You want to proceed?
Yes, thank you. The battery-powered floor scrubber was purchased to help clean and degrease the floors at the facility. Historically, maintenance has come out and rigorously deep cleaned and buffed and re-waxed the floors at our facility when they have availability. And this new equipment helps to preserve the floors longer and between each deep cleaning. And so it helps reduce the amount of time that they would need to come. And it also allows our staff to use the floor cleaning equipment daily. And this also helps reduce the transmission of zoonotic diseases. You have to think about the movement of animals in the facility. So if a dog is sick or a cat and they go from one location to another, we have to make sure daily that those areas are clean to help protect all the animals within our facility. And this is done in addition to all the other measures that are implemented here to help reduce disease transmission and protect the animals and their overall health.
Any questions, any comments on, I believe that was about a $6,000 purchase of those 2 items. So,
Correct.
Okay. Any
They've been
questions?
working great.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Marshall, thank you again for everything that you're doing to help our county and the animals that are in your care. So appreciate that very much.
Thank you. My pleasure. I appreciate your help as well.
We're going to move on to 4B, which is Michelle Anderson, Auditor, and we have items to present, and then we also have information to present. And Ms. Anderson is not here this evening. However, Kathy Dreyer has had a conversation and has met with our auditor, Ms. Anderson, and so Ms. Dreyer is going to do the presentation. We have items B1A, and that is a request approval to retain an actuarial firm. So can I get a motion for that? Member Woolrab made the motion. Can I get a second? Member Erickson seconded that. And so if you want to proceed, Ms. Dreyer.
So what this is a contract to retain the actuarial firm that we have been using since 2008. As Ms. Anderson stated in her memo, the county must hire an actuary for the GASB calculation of the other post-employment benefits. And if we need this in order to, we need their opinion in order to issue a CAFR. So therefore we must hire an actuary each year.
Are there any questions, comments? Member Barnett, please.
Thank you, Chairwoman Metzger. Assistant Administrator Dreyer, this may be an unfair question to you because you're not the auditor, so it's okay if you don't know the answer. But I saw on the cover memo, she has that, at least my impression is we last bid out for this in 2008. Do you have any idea if we've bid out for this in the last, 13 years at all, or?
I do not know the answer to that.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Thank you.
Are you suggesting that we might look at that in the future to bid that out?
Well, yeah, I don't know. 13 years seems like a really long time to go without rebidding something and using the same contractor over and over again. Even if it is, my assumption from looking at this, right, is that it's a good price and they seem to do a good job for us. But still, 13 years is a long time. It may not hurt to shop around, and just also for the sake of having different eyes on things every few years.
Due diligence?
Yeah.
You're thinking due diligence, okay. May I ask Administrator Rodriguez to make note of that so we could potentially look at that for next year?
Chairman Metzger, I take note of that and would take that as a directive from the Finance Committee to look into this as a potential bid out for next year. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you. We'll move on to B1B, and that's a request approval of an ordinance of McLean County Board amending the 2020 combined annual budget and appropriation ordinance.
Do you need to vote on the action?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. We do need to vote on the actuarial. Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Dreyer, for keeping me in check here. We are moving on to B1B. May I have a motion to put that on the floor? Member Barnett is making the motion. Member Friedrich seconded that motion. If you would like to proceed and provide us some insight into this ordinance and what this is doing for the county.
So this is an annual housekeeping item. And it is taking purchase orders that were not used in 2020 and rolling them over into 2021 so that the projects can be completed. So this first one takes it out of the 2020 budget, and the second ordinance puts it into the 2021 budget.
Are there any questions? Member Woolrab?
Thank you, Chairwoman. You and I think, discussed this earlier concerning the East Side Highway rollover. Is that an item, I don't know if you were able to find out or not, but do we know, is that an item that we are going to be using, or I thought the East Side Highway was something that wasn't going to be happening in the near future?
So I spoke to Mr. Stokes today from the Highway Department, and he explained to me that this East Side Highway project has been a project for the last 15 years, and it's rolled over, monies are rolled over each year for the next phases of the project. And right now, they're at the point where they're waiting for IDOT to finish components of a FONSI review, which is a findings of no significant impact. Once that review is complete, the highway can sign off on a project development report, and a monthly plan or monitoring plan will be created, which is where they review that with regional planning, and they determine if there are need for projects. And that monitoring plan is reviewed with regional planning every 2 years. But Mr. Stokes today indicated that he expects this project to be done in 2021.
What do you mean project?
The East Side Highway.
We're going to start building it in 2021?
No, it will be complete in 2021. It's been a 15-year project.
And this may not be fair to you, Ms. Dryer, but I'm not sure. You mean that they're going to put it to bed and it'll be off the table in
Yes.
2021? So what do we need? I guess my question then is, do we need $815,000 in order to do that? And if not, or do we need the entire amount, or can we put that money elsewhere?
Well, that money has been, it's rolled over into 21 for a future project. So until they determine that no more projects are needed, it will remain in the budget.
I'd like
So
to hear else's opinion on whether that, does this make sense? It's sort of, there's something in here that's telling me it's not making complete sense.
Member Woolrab, I don't know a lot about this, but I think the delay is coming in IDOT and finalizing some more studies that need to be done. So the ball's in IDOT's hands right now. And when they sign off on this as having issues, then we proceed forward. So that's my take on it. I could be wrong. Jerry would have to certainly could expand upon that, but that's my opinion. We're kind of in a mode here where basically we have to continue on the way that it's been going until IDOT says yes or no. We're at IDOT's mercy. So that's my opinion, but I could be wrong. Jerry would have to elaborate on that. We're at IDOT's mercy until they say yes or no.
So if we roll this over then, we could certainly have Mr. Stokes talk to us next month and tell us the future of this project, or the future of closing this project, freeing up $815,000 is what I am potentially seeing, but I don't know for sure. So I will make sure that we have Mr. Stokes available for consultation next month. Is that appropriate? Did I
That is-
see Member Erickson? Did you have a question?
Well, I guess it's the question. I don't know if it's a question or comment or thought. I can't remember correctly either, but I mean, isn't there still land? We should find out too if we're going to ask Jerry if there's still land out there where I thought no one can do anything with because that might be where the highway was going to go through. And so, I mean, we got to find out the status of that. And I think IDOT was just trying to the impacts that had to be taken care of first, and if they determine there are none, then I guess it's back to us if we want to go forward or not go forward with it. I think that's what it is. I mean, but you know, at my age, I can't remember this stuff anyway. So, but I know something's going on. So anyway, I think that's where it was left off at. And so if we're going to have Jerry come in, we ought to ask him, you know, is there land being out there that's being set aside for the building of this highway? And if we're forward with it, we go forward. If we're not going forward with it, then we ought to free up that land and give it back to the landowner. So I guess we'll have to decide something.
I did see Member Barnett. Let's go to Member Friedrich, who had his hand up first, and then we'll go to you, Member Barnett. Member Friedrich?
Yeah, Chuck, you're exactly right. It is still tied up per se. Very loosely, it's been targeted and been assigned, so it is still in limbo. And again, it's still in IDOT's hands. So I don't know if Gerald, if he has any input with that. That's kind of his district as well too. But as far as I know, it's in IDOT's hand. I don't know that we can do anything. My recommendation is that we just roll it in like it's been rolled in the last 14 times and go from there, because until IDOT, it's much like COVID and Illinois Department of Health that we're dealing with. They have the upper hand in this, and that's all I know.
Member Barnett, you had your hand up. You had a question or a comment?
Well, I was just going to say, I have a faint memory of us having a very similar conversation about a year ago when this money got rolled over from the last time. Because I was kind of surprised that the project was still moving forward. I thought it was sitting on a shelf collecting dust somewhere. So I think if, as has been proposed, if Member Stokes, if Engineer Stokes would be able to come and I guess just tell us, what's going on with all this, and if he doesn't feel that all of that money is going to be needed in the future, as Member Woolrab had pointed out, well, good heavens, let's take some of that and free it up for something else. If we're able to do that, I know a lot of the money came in. I think about $10 million came in. I think it was from the federal government originally to do part of the study for the East Side Highway. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with folks. If he can come in and clear this up, maybe we won't be having deja vu again a year from now.
I think she has him on the phone.
I know I had Administrator Rodriguez has Mr. Stokes on the phone right now, so we can.
Be on in 5 minutes.
Okay, be on 5 minutes.
He's going to be calling in. So why don't we put this on hold right now? And then we can have a conversation and then we'll be able to vote on it. It's still on the table. And then we also have the appropriation to 2021 that couldn't be impacted. But we do have items for presented for information. And Ms. Dreyer, if you could present some information for us or maybe some explanation on these quarterly audit reports.
So she has provided us with quarterly reports, and they are cumulative based for each quarter. They start on page 17, and what it does is it compares the actual revenues and expenses compared to the budget. And then if you go on to pages 18 through 22, she gives a breakdown, gives the detail for the special revenue funds. And then on page 23, it shows the progress or the status between 2020 and 2019. And then it goes on to page 24, and it shows the departments where the money has been spent and what percentage of the budget has been used as of that date. And then she does that for each quarter.
Any questions, any comments on these? Did any? Member Woolrab, and then we'll go to Member Friedrich. Member Woolrab.
Sure. So it's good to have these reports. I'm more than a little, I'm concerned, we're an oversight committee that should be looking at these things, and quarterly, it would have been nice to have had them on a more timely basis rather than to get 3 quarters all at once. And it would seem to me that it would be likely that we should have been able to get the 4th quarter of 20 at this point. And so I just wanted to say that I think it makes it difficult for us to do our oversight work when we don't have the information available to us. Thanks.
Member Friedrich.
I completely agree with Member Woolrab. We got this report a couple days ago, nothing on December. I'm overwhelmed, Chairman Metzger, and I can't decipher all this information in a couple days. That's my issue. I don't know how to resolve that. I'm not an accountant. It takes me 5 times longer to go through every line item, and I'm just struggling with it. I'm just telling you how it is. I'm not happy. And I know that's not coming from you, Chairman Metzger. I'm just venting.
So I can ask her about the quarterly.
Okay, I think you want to go ahead, Ms. Dreyer. She has developed a relationship that she's working pretty closely with Ms. Anderson. So do you want to?
I can reach out to her and ask her if she can provide these on a quarterly basis in 2021. And if you have questions about these reports here, feel free to reach out to her via email or calling her office.
When did she mention when our December of 2020 would be available to us?
She said that is reported in the annual CAFR.
And I think that is generally what we've seen in the past?
Yes.
Okay. And that will take place, what, in the month of May?
I believe so, May or June.
Okay.
But
So
if there's something you wish before then, I could certainly ask her to provide it.
I would think, as Member Woolrab indicated and the Member Friedrich also suggested, that we don't get them all at once. If we could get the quarter for this quarter, probably in April would be good. The month following the end of the quarter would help us. As we are an oversight committee, it would be ideal for us to be able to address any concerns we may have. If we're seeing revenue diminished and expenses spike, then we may have to take action, and it's difficult to do that if we don't have that information. So if you could relay that information along with maybe our administrator, if that's necessary, it would be more than appreciated from our committee, I'm sure. Any other comments or questions? All right, very good. Let's go back to 4B1B. Mr. Stokes is here. Thank you, our engineer Stokes, for joining us. And if you could provide us with a little bit of insight as to why the $850,000 continues to get rolled over, and will we see this project closed at some point, that money could be used and distributed into other funds? Did I summarize that correctly, committee? Okay, very good.
Yeah, good evening. I apologize for not being here on time. So yes, there's a couple different components of the East Side Highway, a lot of components, but the main goal that we're after with this study is what we call a project development report. And so with that project development report, we do this for a lot of our overlays when we use federal funds, and basically it's like an environmental document that takes care of all the environmental issues that would be as part of the project. So there's like an environmental component. There's also like a geometric component to make sure that that's all done according to IDOT standards and policies. So this total project, when this started out 15 years ago, was I think around $12 to $13 million. And so as the consultant and their sub-consultants did work, they submit invoices and we paid off of that. So since this project was ongoing, and in order to have that money available each year, we had to do a purchase order that moved it from one year to the next, and whatever we expended during that year went off the books, and then that got put, and then whatever was left went over to the next year. Well, then, so now we're getting down to the end, and hopefully finally in 2021 here, we can complete where we'll sign off on the PDR report. And so that's basically going to sit on the shelf until there's a need for the project. And what we're going to do is work with regional planning and to do like a monitoring plan where we're monitoring the traffic on the east side, elements, accidents, that type of thing. And so as we do that, we'll probably write up a summary what that is going to entail. So if there is money left over, we're going to have to work with IDOT on where that money is going to go. So there could be a potential where we start, for example, and like this is kind of hypothetical. Let's say there's an interchange at Downs that needs to be done that connects 150 and I-74. Well, we could use some of that money to secure it right away. And at that point, or until there's a more funding source for the construction to be done. So IDOT, since they're kind of the ones that gave us that money out of the Illinois First capital bill, it may be something where they needs to go back into the coffers of the MPO to where it can be used on other projects in the county. It wouldn't just necessarily be a county project, but it could be a town or a city project at that point.
Any questions for Engineer Stokes? It looks like Member Barnett has a question, Mr. Stokes.
So just to clarify, so if the East Side Highway doesn't actually enter into its next real phase for, let's say, 50 years, we're just going to keep rolling this money over from year to year, right? And until it may be needed for, like you said, future studies or land acquisitions that may come when it's actually time to pull the trigger on the project. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. I think IDOT's probably going to have more of a say in it, and it may go back into our what our MPO allotment pool that may be used still in the community and still in the county. But, if we decide it's not going to be used for a project, and, we could certainly, I think that's going to be a policy discussion with the town, the city, and the county as far as where that money should go.
Okay, thanks.
Looks like Member Thompson has a question for you, Mr. Stokes. And then following that will be Mr. Erickson. Member Thompson?
Yeah, Jerry, you said 10 or 12 million. Where did those dock funds originally come from? Was those state funds, federal funds? Just curious, do you have an idea?
Yeah, hang on, my dog's barking. So it was coming from the Illinois. Came from the Illinois First Capital Fund or capital program that was done.
It looks like he's trying to take care of a dog for a moment. So we've all been there, so.
I know you all want to say something about me helping out.
Yeah, where are you at?
That's right.
There we go. It looks like Mr. Stokes has returned. So Member Thompson's question had to do with where the money originally was generated from.
Yeah, sorry about that. So that was from the Illinois First Capital Program that was done in 1999, and it came through the legislator from IDOT, basically.
Okay, Member Erickson, your question?
Maybe more than one, but my question is, my recollection that we have land tied up for this. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's certain things where you can't do certain things as we believe that's where the East Side Highway is going to be built. Is that true or not?
We do not have any land tied up in as far as purchase or like a corridor protection or anything like that. We have basically a corridor plan, but there's nothing protecting it from somebody developing along this corridor.
Okay, so if a farmer or some landowner has land that they believe where the East Side Highway corridor is going to go, they can still do what they want with that piece of land, right? I mean, there's not limited by this whether we're going to build it or not, right?
That's correct. Yeah, there is a what they call corridor protection, but as a county, we don't have the authority to do corridor protection. I think IDOT does, but as a county level, we do not.
When would corridor protection come in? I mean, is that something that IDOT is looking to do now, or is that in the future?
I think that's way in the future. I don't know if how that necessarily works. I don't have really the information or the answers on that.
To make certain. I was just wanting to make certain that, if we're going to keep rolling this over for a project that can be done 50 years from now, when it will be very feasible, then, I wanted to make sure there was no restriction on any landowner's right to do what he wanted to do with this property, for the time being.
Yeah, not at this time. There's not any way to do any further protection of where the East Side Highway would need to go. And really, I mean, the 800,000 is just, that's what we have left over. And by the time we get done with this, hopefully in 2021, I don't know that whatever money it's have left is only going to go so far. So we're actually going to need additional funding sources to be able to move forward with anything that happens.
Can't build a highway for $815,000.
Not very far.
All right. Thanks.
Member Woolrab, I know you had your hand up.
I did, and I think Mr. Stokes clarified, this is not, money that's sitting there is not our money, it's really state, federal. So even
Correct.
if,
It's really IDOT's money. They just kind of gave us basically gave the county the money to proceed with the East Side Highway study and phase one of this project.
Member Friedrich, you got a question or a comment?
Yes. One, I'm having technical difficulties with speaking, and the volume is coming in and out, so I apologize. I hope I don't have any problems. Chuck, just getting back to your answer, yes, I agree with Mr. Stokes that it does not have any link. You know how this plays. IDOT has designated a corridor. That having been said, nothing has changed other than it's designated. And fortunately, the landowners have been designated as an east side corridor. I don't know if they will ever be able to get out from underneath that because it's so. Yes, it's not. Yes, it is. You know how these projects go, and that's what they all know. Hope I can cover with this meeting. I'm going to keep going with it.
Thank you for your efforts. Any other questions for Mr. Stokes? Very good. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Stokes. I think we are ready to vote on B1B, request the approval of the ordinance for the McLean County Board amending 2020 combined budget and appropriation ordinance. Julie, can you please call the roll?
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
yes,
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. That passes. We will move on to B1C, and that is the request approval of an ordinance of the McLean County Board amending the 2021 combined annual budget appropriation ordinance. That's found on page 16, and that is basically to move the money into 2021. I need a motion to bring this. Member Thompson is moving, and Member Barnett did a second. Are there any questions, any additional discussion needed? Seeing none, Julie, can you call the roll, please?
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
yes,
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Then we can move on now to 4C. We have Becky McNeil is on the line and is able to help us with this. So we have C1A, and that's request approval for a resolution authorizing the county board chair to surrender, cancel tax sale certificates of purchase for number 2016-00474 and number 2017-9004 and number 2017-90012 and number 2017-9936 found on page 56 and 60. May I have a motion to take that on the floor? I have Member Woolrab made the motion and Member Lehman seconded that. And Ms. McNeil, do you want to go ahead and provide us with some information regarding these?
Sure. These are the parcels that were sold to the trustee each year during tax sale. The other tax buyers did not want to bid on these. We have about 400, a little over 400 mobile home and real estate parcels on our portfolio. Most of them redeem in a timely manner, so you don't see anything like this. But then we do have some of them where we are in the process of acquiring tax deed, or we have already gone and we've acquired an order for tax deed, where the homeowner does finally step up and agree to make payment. And so that's the reason why these have to come before you. These parcels, the property owners paid the taxes that were due. Therefore, we need to formally allow the trustee to surrender those tax sale certificates in exchange for payment.
Very good. Are there any questions related to these parcels and the process that Ms. McNeil described? Looks like Ms. Lehman has a question. Ms. Lehman?
Yes, thank you. I'm just curious, what is if I could have a quick maybe description of what the process or the timeline is for this type of situation that's brought us here today.
Okay, so these certificates of purchase, you can see that these are related to, went back to tax year 16, payable 17. So we would have gone to tax sale in the fall of 2017. And here you can see we are now in February of 21, and we are making these arrangements. A typical time frame, according to Illinois state statute, allows a property owner around 3 years to redeem their sold taxes. And outside of that redemption period, the tax buyer has multiple levels of responsibilities to also complete. If the property owner does not redeem, then the tax buyer can petition the court for tax deed to the property. So with these particular parcels, the goal of this program is to obviously not take deed to property. The goal is to try to work with the property owners, and in these particular cases, I saw a couple of them actually on this list here. We were, the trustee was making payment arrangements where the property owner was making a payment each month to that trustee. Normal tax buyers don't always allow that. So this trustee program really goes above and beyond to try to recover the delinquent taxes for the benefit of the taxing bodies, and to keep those parcels, return them to productive use. And those that do not redeem, the trustee will take deed to through the court, through the Illinois state statute, the process that is outlined in there. And then we go through a process of, we move those into a surplus program, and we offer those parcels for sale without any prior taxes. This is going kind of deep, and you are more than welcome to reach out to me so I can explain the process to you. But the goal of this program is to allow the taxpayer ample time to redeem. And like I said, in cases where we would go to tax deed, we are still in many cases working with our property owners because we don't want to take deed to their property. That's not the goal.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that explanation. It's very helpful.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Ms. Morlock, could you please call the roll?
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolram,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Friedrich,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes, very good. Motion passes. We are now moving on to C1B, and that's to accept and place on file the county treasurer's monthly financial reports. These were emailed to everyone earlier today. So I need to have a motion to bring this to the floor. Member Thompson makes the motion, and Member Lehman is seconding that motion. And the floor is yours, Ms. McNeil.
Thank you. So the first report that you have is the summary of tax revenue. And this entire report of tax revenue is basically just focused on 1 month at this point in time. These numbers will change, obviously, as we continue to add each month of the fiscal year. But your revenue for January was $1,083,000 compared to $1,008,000 in 2020. So we're up $75,300 on our monthly tax revenue. When we look at the month of January historically, and I don't do this for every single month because it just takes a tremendous amount of time to go back and pull these numbers. But a couple times a year, I'll pull in where we were, and you can see that we have grown. We had revenue of over 900,000 in 16-17, dipped down in 18-19, came back up in 20, and here we are in 21, even higher. This changes. Sometimes it's not just a reflection of the economy. Sometimes it's also a reflection of the state of Illinois deciding to divert funds away from local governments. So this is just one of those areas that we have to watch very carefully, especially the PPRT that seems to be the target, as well as income tax. So I was very happy with the January numbers. Obviously, your monthly comparison is the same, 75,300. Looking at budgets right now, through the month of January, we would expect to be about 973,000. We're at 110. We would expect to be at 973,000. We're at 1,083,000. So we're 110,000 above budget here in the first month. So certainly a nice way to start off the new year. The shared sales tax revenue for the town of Normal and city of Bloomington came in total 327,000. That is just very, very slightly below where January of 2020 receipts came in at. The fund equity, 11,375,338. Your property tax revenue, obviously we have not collected anything, but you can see the budget, 36,921,985, and we'll update that as we proceed through the year. Your county motor fuel tax, again, the regular CMFT and the renewal is broken down there for you. Total county motor fuel tax, 316,000. Total township motor fuel tax, 257,000. It is really good to see, though, the additional revenue that the county is receiving. And obviously, as years go on, we'll clearly realize that that was because of the renewal fund, those distributions coming to the county. So, any questions?
Do not see any questions, Ms. McNeil.
Okay, then the next report is the investment report, and the investment report, not a lot of movement with rates right now. As you know, rates are rock bottom right now. We had 2 CDs that we ended up cashing out and just transferring, into liquid cash to meet accounts payable and payroll. We did have 2 CDs that we went ahead and renewed. We got an attractive rate. Even though it was only for 3 months, it was at 0.25. And when you got money markets at, 0.10 and below, we feel like that's a good decision, temporary. The overall balance at the end of January, 67,718,783. Just to recap where we were 1 year ago, 62,856,611. So our balance, our cash has grown by over 5 million. Okay. Any questions regarding that report?
It looks like you are good. You want to
Okay.
continue to proceed?
The Blue Cross Blue Shield report for the month of January was not available. We were still trying to pull it down this afternoon before I had Julie send that report out to you. But again, the numbers are just not available. And that's typical for the month of January because they are incorporating all of the changes that our plan entailed for the new fiscal year. And in addition to that, I believe Blue Cross Blue Shield has a new platform as well because our links to acquire our reports are not the same. So anyway, we'll bring those numbers for January to the committee next month along with our numbers for February. The next report is the nursing home report, and this is a report through the end of December. It's very, very important for you to know that these numbers are still subject to change, and they are unaudited at this time. When I say they're still subject to change, we are still paying expenses and recording revenue that is being accrued into 2020. We're in that period right now and will continue through the month of March, where we are required, according to accounting standards, to recognize the expense or recognize the revenue in the year in which it's incurred or the year in which it's earned. So we do have these numbers for you today, but again, they will change over the next few months until the audit starts. And if our auditors have any further adjustments, those will be made, and then these will be made final when you receive the CAFR. But for right now, the major sources of revenue the nursing home receives is the due from state of Illinois public aid, their private pay, and their Medicare. And now that we have a full 12 months in, you can see that their year-to-date revenue was $6,516,190. I think it's important to note there that their revenue came in at 95% of budget in these categories, and so that is really good because these are areas in which the nursing home has struggled with. They have gotten that budgeted number. It seems like they've targeted in on that, and they are putting a number into the budget, which does seem to reflect the actual. The total year-to-date revenue on those major sources, $6,516,190. The nursing home does have other sources of revenue. The year-to-date total of all revenue, accumulated revenue, is $7,873,934. Their year-to-date accumulated expenses are $8,155,575. So that is a situation where the expenses exceeded the revenue by $281,641. This number includes a couple things I want to point out to you. The revenue number for the nursing home, it does include $440,000 of in year-end transfers. These are transfers that are always made at the end of the year. And I just want to point, the members that have been on the committee before, they know that these transfers are routine and they do bump that up quite a bit. There was $440,000. There's another transfer that's still coming in from another area. The nursing home also benefited this year, their revenue by $863,000 in stimulus money from the Cures and Cares Act. So I think that the nursing home at this point in time is in a better position than they have been in for many, many, many years. even though it's a deficit, it's still a very small amount compared to what it has been in the past. The outstanding AR at the end of December, $3,427,550. So that's about 63,000 above where they started at in January of 2020. The cash balance, I was very happy to see the cash balance ended at $1,255,933. This is very important because we started the year out at $1,056,998. So they have gained in their cash of $198,935. Obviously, the additional revenue from the Cures and CARES Act is a big part of why their cash ended in such a positive position. I have concerns. Obviously, if revenues and expenses, if revenues do not exceed expenses, you know eventually what's going to happen. We're going to run out of cash. But we did have a very good year there in staying level with cash. The fund equity ended at $3,556,910. So that is the $281,641 below where the fund equity was as of the beginning of the year. And that number goes back up to where the expenses exceeded the revenue. That's the reason why you have that drop, obviously, in your fund equity. So, any questions?
Look, Member Thompson has a question.
It's not a question, but rather a comment. Just I'd like to thank you for providing timely financial statements. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. This report is just a summary of, I guess I would say probably the key areas in which we're watching that nursing home. You know, Michelle's report is presented to you on a quarterly basis, and it goes into more depth on certain categorical expenses. But this report is just, it's one that I worked with former county administrator in the committee to gather just a summary of a few areas where we need to look at and watch. Those quarterly reports are extremely important, obviously, because then you get to come down into a real micro view, whereas this is a macro view of how things are going out there. So you're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Very good. Thank you, Ms. McNeil. Appreciate your attendance. I believe we are now moving on to 4D, which is Kathy Michael, County Clerk, and I believe she is on the line. She does not have any items for action. Her monthly reports are available, but she did, I believe, did everyone receive a year-end summary from Ms. Michael?
Can you hear me? I'll chime in here.
Yes, we did. We can hear you. So please proceed, Ms. Michael.
Julie, you probably didn't get that sent out, right?
What sent out?
That attachment that I didn't attach and then reattached. Okay, because I thought somebody gave the thumbs up. I was going to I had a very nice, long, incredibly boring summary of everything you'd want to know about the county clerk's office for you new folks to finance. I sent it to Julie and asked her to send it. I just got it done today. And I neglected to hit the send button. So I will have that ready for you later. And then if any of you like that, Ms. Lehman, if you want that ahead of time to take a look at before March, let me know. It's pretty in-depth, and I think we'll put it on the website. So that was my apologies to Julie when I frantically said, can you get this out right away? And then later she said, get what out? So I'll be a little bit more careful on hitting the send button next time. But it was a summary in great detail of everything that we do, which is always surprises a lot of people to find out what the county clerk, and I'm sure many of your offices do as well. So I have nothing else to add at this point other than everyone has filed for the April 6th election. The deadlines have all passed except for write-ins, and tomorrow is the deadline for any write-in candidates. So now we are proofing the ballots of over 450 candidates. Much more extensive proofreading than any other type of election, so we have to be very careful with that. Then we have to have these ready because pretty soon military ballots have to be mailed out, and we start early voting February 25th. This time it will be at the BCPA rather than the arena. As you know, the arena is the vaccination center, so we can't have that this time. We are awaiting information on a couple of appeals to challenges, and kind of watch for that. And does anyone, we're right in the middle of SEI's Statement of Economic Interests. We have 178, again, Ms. Lehman, for you, 178 units of government, which you probably know. And they are obliged to send our office their list of folks that they want to file an SEI. That deadline to receive all those was Monday. Everybody met the deadline. And now we have about 2,000 people to remind to make sure to get their SEIs in on time. And I think that's about it. Do you have any questions?
It doesn't appear we have any questions. Ms. Michael, the committee will receive your year-end review at a later date?
Yes, I mean, I can send it right now if you want time to look at it. It's just details what we do, and then you'll have it if you want to discuss before March, and we invite you to come in and you can have a tour of the office if the conditions improve, to call for an appointment, please. But do know our office is always open for your questions. And if you want, I'll check with you, Chair Catherine Metzger, to see if I should send it out now or just wait until closer to the March meeting, whatever you guys wish. Thank you.
What's the wish of the committee? To have it now, or would we, Member Lehman?
I'd love to have it now if possible. It'd be very helpful to have some time to digest.
Okay, very good. And then we could have maybe questions at our March meeting, correct? Is that good?
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks. I'll do that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Michael.
Thank you.
Member Metz, can I speak for a second? I'm sorry.
We need to vote on something. I keep running forward, so I apologize. We did not vote on the treasurers. We have it. We have a motion on the floor for the acceptance and place into file the county treasurer's monthly financial report. So we need to vote on that. And thank you, Ms. Morlock, and Ms. Samantha also reminded me. So if we can have a roll call vote, it looks like Member Friedrich has dropped off, probably technical problems. So.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes, thank you very much. I will try to stay on target here with these. We're moving on to 4E. That would be Camille Rodriguez, County Administrator. We have a number of items for action, and our first one will be a request approval of the emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2020 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for the general fund cures. That's found on page 69 through 71. May I have a motion for this to be put on the floor? It looks like Member Erickson is making the motion and Member Barnett seconded that. And Administrator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. We have provided on page 69 of your packet a fairly detailed memo. I won't go into any details, but in general, this captures what our office did to work with many county departments in utilizing the CURES funding that was allotted to McLean County, and this action signifies our use of that. If you have any questions, either myself or Ms. Dreyer or Ms. Taylor would be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments related to this? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote? Ms. Morlock, please.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Friedrich.
His technical problems, he's down, his system's down.
His system is down.
Yeah, just texted me.
Oh, we just had noticed that Member Friedrich had to drop off. He's having technical difficulties, so.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
and Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Motion passes. We will move on to E1B, request approval of emergency appropriation ordinance, amending the McLean County fiscal year 2020 combined annual appropriation budget ordinance for general fund 0001, found on page 72 to 75. May I have a motion? Member Woolrab and Member Thompson seconded that. And if you want to proceed, Administrator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. For the membership, this is an annual task that we do in relation to closing out the general ledger funds at the end of each year. And either myself or my staff could answer questions if you have particular areas of inquiry regarding this action.
Seeing none, is Ms. Morlock, can you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. Motion passes. We are moving on to E1C, request approval of an ordinance transferring monies from the County General Fund 001 to the Children's Advocacy Center Fund 0129, the Court Security Fund 0141, the IDPA, I guess that would be 4D Fund 0156, and Tort Judgment Fund 0135 for fiscal year 2021, found on page 76 through 78. May I have a motion? Looks like Member Barnett made the motion, and Member Lehman is seconding that motion. And if we can have, any questions? Yeah. Looks like Member Barnett has a question.
Well, yes, Chairwoman Metzger, if there are no objections, I'd be happy to move items E1, C, D, and E together, as they're all money transfers for the budget.
Excellent idea. So he has made that, since we already had a motion for C, I think we need to vote on that, and then we can add D and E together. All right, so.
If I can interrupt, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
If Mr. Barnett's motion is a motion to amend the original motion, you can do that as well and still only have the one vote.
Perfect. Can we have that, Member Barnett?
Yes, I'd be happy to make that amendment.
And we need the second to proceed. Member Lehman, are you in agreement with that? Okay, very good. So we're going to proceed with C, D, and E. And those are all transferring, it's the cleanup for the year. So Ms. Morlock, can you call the roll, please?
Sorry. Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. And we have one other item, E1F, and that's request approval of the proposed insurance program for policy year 2021 risk management. And that can be found on 82 through 85. And may I have a motion for that, please? Looks like Member Woolrab made the motion and Member Erickson seconded that. And we can proceed with information and discussion.
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. As most leaders do when things get complicated, I'm going to delegate. Mr. Spanos leads our risk management activities within county administration, and I'm going to turn this over to him for leadership on providing you the background about this proposal and our recommendation. Mr. Spanos.
Thank you. Following Administrator Rodriguez's lead, maybe I should then delegate this to Samantha, who's sitting in the back of the room. But unfortunately, she's not ready to talk about it. So obviously, we came with some difficult news. The insurance program this year resulted in an unexpected and significant increase. It has been summarized in the memorandum. I can talk about them. I'm assuming you have some questions. So if I'm wasting your time, you can stop me now. Otherwise, I'll just kind of highlight some of the reasons for this significant increase, as I did in the memo. Not a whole lot of new information here that's not already there. But basically, the three areas are the excess liability that comes up. Can I'm going to screen share this spreadsheet so I can kind of refer to what I'm talking about, if that'd be helpful. If I remember how to do it. Give me a second. Start with that one. There we go. So what you see here in column C are our coverages from last year, and then we lines 9 through 15. As you can see, we had auto general liability, law enforcement liability, public officials liability, employment practice liability, and employer's liability, all at a $2 million policy. But then on top of that, there's an $8 million excess policy, so a total of $10 million in coverage. And then on top of that, we had another $5 million excess policy for $15 million total. This year, it's been packaged a little bit differently with the same $15 million total coverage on each line. So you have a $5 million policy on the primary side, and then we don't have an excess policy like we did last year, but we have a larger excess liability policy of $10 million. So the total coverage is the same. The biggest change, as you can see, it comes from this excess policy, and of course up here. But the real problem in this is the police liability and an incredibly hard market based on the events that we're all familiar with. There are a number of situations going on where our carrier last year, Safety National, was actually involved in a couple of the bigger events that resulted in large claims. So many carriers, many insurance carriers are leaving that market altogether. They don't want to sell it anymore. Obviously, we're in a position where we don't want to self-insure that. So we're stuck trying to get coverage in what is an incredibly hard market. So we had an almost 200% increase in coverage, the cost of coverage, the good news is that we really don't have a claim history or a loss ratio that affected it. We don't have a history of that ourselves, but unfortunately that didn't help us very much. So we have, these are the three options. You can see that we received and the combinations, and at the bottom here you see the totals. We consulted with Gallagher and got their recommendations, and I think it's pretty clearly they recommend this total right here of $1.1 million. Now, before I ask for any questions, I'll give you two more examples or issues here. One is with the work comp. We also saw a significant increase, 88%, 88.3%. This is in large part due to loss ratio. We had a couple significant claims in the last few years. Some of those claims didn't hit the books until the last year. I understand that a year or two ago there was some conversation warning that this was coming, and it hit us this year. So this unfortunately is going to stay on our books now for probably 9 to 10 years. Hopefully in the future, as we have fewer and fewer claims, our loss ratio will go down and we'll see some relief from this, but it's going to be a little while before we see any significant relief for our work comp coverage. There are various options here. This option is a little higher, but it required us to change our TPA. It gave us a lower deductible, but there were some issues with that we thought this was a better option to stick with our current relationships. And Gallagher was on board with that, understood the reasons for that. And lastly is the nursing home. We had about a 63.7% increase in the nursing home. This again is due to an incredibly hard market, driven somewhat by COVID. And some of the experiences over the last year where everybody knows that there have been many, many deaths that have occurred in nursing homes. And those crafty lawyers are out there figuring out ways to try and make somebody else pay for it. Those cases have not hit yet, but I think the anticipation of the potential claims that may be coming, whether they do or not, has tightened the market. There are some other things that factor into it, but those are the primary issues. Hard market, bad time to be in the business of shopping for insurance. I'm told this is the best we could do, and we've had a pretty good relationship, as I understand it, for many years with Gallagher. They're very experienced. They've done a very good job for us in the past, and I think it's reasonable to rely on them. So I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Looks like we have a question from Member Woolrab, and then we'll follow with Member Lehman. So Member Woolrab, and we also have one from Member Erickson. So Member Woolrab, please proceed.
Thank you. And thank you for the work on this, Chris, and whoever may have helped you. And I agree that I used to work with Gallagher when I worked in some insurance at the city, and I found them to be very good at what they did. My question, because I don't have good understanding of nursing home insurance, is concerns that excess coverage on there and how that actually works in a nursing home. Is that going to be, is it like health insurance where there's individual and then aggregate, or how does, how are we being covered for our nursing home expense insurance?
Well, all of the packages have some self-insured retention early on, and that's $250,000 on almost every policy. Then the policy, I guess I go back to screen shared again. All right. This is your primary coverage here, the nursing home package. And then this is, of course, an excess policy that gives us additional coverage. And I don't see the limits on here. I have to go to the packet itself to show you the limits, but it's just the combined. I want to say this one is $2 million, and then this one is more, but I don't remember exactly. I'm sorry, Ms. Woolrab. I can look that up and get that for you.
Do you know what get covered each individual nursing resident and then which would be individual covered, and then also an aggregate coverage on all the people that the nursing home under.
No, this is liability coverage. This is if we're responsible for something that happens at the nursing home. This isn't providing coverage to individuals. It's coverage for the county.
Right, but it would be, does it then cover the people? So if we had a death, it would be we would be covered, here's where we would be covered for lawsuits having to do with that death?
Correct.
Or misunderstanding. So that would be per individual then, is how we're looking at that?
I wouldn't say per individual, I would say per claim. So we're covered, and the coverage is per claim. So we have this much coverage. And then the excess, of course, if the claim gets to be above a certain amount.
And is that on each claim or total claim?
Right. There may be an aggregate limit. I'd have to look at it. In other words, if all your claims total up to a certain amount, I got to pull it up because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's important to know, I guess. Yeah.
Let's see what I do with it. I'll be under the gun here like this and see how I operate under pressure.
Sorry.
That's all right. I should have had it available. I didn't anticipate that question. So. I just got to find where I put it. Going through all this in my screen share. Yeah. I'll have it here in a second. So it's $1 million on the underlying coverage. It's $1 million per claim, $3 million in the aggregate. So the total of all claims, and then the excess is an additional $2 million, and that is aggregate and individual. So it's just across the board, $2 million.
Okay. It sounds going to sound, but I hope that's.
I think you're breaking up a little bit. I think you said, I hope that's enough, and I'll say I agree.
Okay. And are we good, Member Woolrab?
Yes.
All right. Member Lehman, you had a question or comment?
Yes. So understanding that this is kind of the insurance norm of where we are, and we here today we're just voting on whether to accept the plan or not. I'm curious about perhaps future proactive risk mitigation measures that might be done as we anticipate 2022 and beyond. Is there how do we approach those as a county? Might we have folks who have an expertise there, or what would be the process or action that we can do to help mitigate some of this in the future?
Well, Gallagher does offer some services as part of this service fee that address some risk management, and those opportunities are there. I'm new. I don't know if you know this, Ms. Lehman, but I've only been here since August, so I'm still feeling out the ropes on some of that. But some of those programs are available. I've had some conversations with Gallagher, and there is at least some motion towards implementing some of those programs that should help. But I can't tell you how much, how much premium we might save by doing those things, but it won't hurt us.
Certainly, thank you.
All right,
Is
member.
that so? After,
No, please go right
apologize,
ahead.
I just thought of a follow-up. Is that okay?
Follow up.
So as we're able to find out from Gallagher what some of these might be, are those things that you would continue to bring to committee for discussion and follow up there, or for the follow up to this, shall I perhaps seek you out in a future time to learn a little bit more as you learn more?
Well, the first answer is you can always seek me out. I'd be glad to give you whatever information I can at any time. As far as whether it would come to committee, I think we could bring it to you as an information item. Since there's no cost associated with it, I don't know that it would come to you as an action item, but I suppose that's something we could discuss in the future.
I would absolutely be interested in knowing. I guess it's up to everybody else if they're interested as well. I'd be more than happy if folks would prefer to follow up with you in a few months with this one off, if that's more appropriate.
All right, member Erickson, you had a question?
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. In regards to the police liability coverage, what exactly is that and what does it cover?
Well, I can go to that policy and I'll tell you exactly. But any of the police action that raises or brings about a claim, to the extent it's not excluded, is going to be under that policy. Give me a second. Do you want to know the limits on that? Well, we've got the limits. They're 5 million, but there's specific.
Well, I want to know more than that. What is a claim? I mean, what does that cover exactly? I mean, if a police officer does this, or does it not cover that, or what does that cover?
No, well, there's always going to be exclusions on intentional acts, but then that's not a question for liability for the county. It's going to cover the county's liability as the employer of a police officer who might be accused of, brutality, excess force, going beyond the appropriate limitations of their duties.
So that would cover the county's liability, right?
And the police officer.
Counties.
Yeah, if the county's responsible, which they would be under, a theory of respondent superior, so then it would also cover the officer's liability.
Okay. In regards to, and I'm not.
Subject.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, subject to any exclusions or limitations within the policy, and we could spend 3 hours talking about those probably.
In regards to officer immunity, and I'm not an expert on the bill that passed the General Assembly. I still think it's waiting to be signed by the governor. Does that have anything to do with this? And does that have any bearing on this, what we're doing today?
The information I have is that the initial proposal to take away qualified immunity for police officers in certain situations was taken out of the bill that was approved and that's sitting on the governor's desk. So I don't believe that that's still an issue.
All right. What is qualified immunity? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. It's a statute that's in a nutshell. You and I, as individuals, are subject to liability for common negligence. A police officer, while acting within the scope of his authority, is protected by qualified immunity. It's not just a police officer, it extends in other areas too. But it's a statute that specifically sets out that, let's say, a police officer who is on his way to a call runs a stop sign and causes an automobile accident. That police officer is not subject to negligence. You have to show willful and wanton or a heightened level of culpability in order to prevail.
Okay, and in regards to qualified immunity, you just said you thought it was your understanding that the bill that's sitting on the governor's desk, that was taken out of it, or is it still in it, or was it ever in it? I don't know. I mean, what do you know?
So the original version that I saw, the proposal was to take away qualified immunity for police officers in certain situations, in most situations. That's my understanding. The bill that was passed by the House and Senate that's sitting on the governor's desk did not include that proposal. So in other words, leave qualified immunity alone. That's my understanding.
All right. All right. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments wanting to be directed at this topic? My only question would be, it appears that we have in excess of our budget of about $200,000. So we did not budget for this. So where would that those funds come from?
And this is where I'm going to defer to either Ms. Dreyer or Ms. Taylor or Ms. Rodriguez.
Chairman Metzger.
Please.
And thank you, Mr. Spanos. It would come from the fund balance in the tort fund.
So the unencumbered fund balance that we have in the tort fund.
Correct.
Okay. And we have those balances, those are just available in most of our accounts just in case we have situations like this.
The tort fund, I may have to lean on staff to properly explain, but that particular fund has flexibility based on how funds are accrued within that particular general ledger fund. And so it's slightly different from some of the other funds. I could go into that a little more, but certainly that is the one fund where we have some flexibility should we come upon a situation like this where we have a fluctuation in the rates based on other factors that are outside of our control.
And if this is approved tonight, we'll be presenting a budget amendment next month to fully explain it.
I hope everyone heard that.
Did everyone hear that?
Good.
Okay, very good.
Thank you for this opportunity to explain.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much. Member Erickson, you have a question or a comment?
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. Just to follow up, in this letter, it's dated, or this memo is dated, not dated, what is dated? January 29th, 2021 on page 82 of the packet. It's when it's discussing police liability coverage, it says this stems from a very hard market driven by recent civil unrest. Is that the opinion of the state's attorney, or is that the opinion of the insurance company, or is that the opinion of both?
That's based on the information that I received from Gallagher, who received it from the network of insurance coverage or carriers, brokers that they try to place the business through. That's their professional opinion. Civil unrest were my words. to try and describe what is the general climate right now with respect to police liability.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Spanos, do you have anything else to add?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and let's, Ms. Morlock, can we please have a roll call vote on this item on our agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes?
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. The motion passes, and then we have E2A, and that is a report on recent employment activities. And Administrator Rodriguez, do you want to proceed?
Thank you, Chairman Metzger. I simply present to the committee this report, and I can answer any questions about these most recent hires from the month of January of 2021.
Are there any questions for Ms. Rodriguez? Okay, seeing none. We have another item. We have item 5, which would be recommendation of payment of bills or transfers for the county board. And I have got a approval of bills that have been certified by our county auditor. And it appears that we have a total of $1,483,366.85. And may I have a motion to approve the payment of bills and the transfers that are found on page 87 through 91. It looks like Member Barnett has made that motion and Member Thompson has seconded that. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Ms. Morlock, could you please have a roll call vote on that?
Thank you. Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes?
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Chairman Metzger.
Yes. We move on to 6, which is other business or communications. Do we have any at this time?
If I may humbly recommend that we go back to do the transfers.
Oh, did we miss all of our
And that's okay. It gives me the opportunity. Oh, go ahead, Julie. I'm sorry.
I thought I heard her say, and the transfers on pages.
I did.
I apologize to the committee and to Chairman Metzger. I am
Yes,
so sorry.
I did include those in that.
I appreciate you for that, and I just missed it, even though I am standing here absolutely paying attention to you.
It's all good. Considering the errors that I have made this evening, I think we are all good.
I am all good. I was just trying to be thorough. I apologize to the chairman and the membership. I have
good.
no other information to share this evening.
Very good. Seeing no other business to be conducted, I think we can adjourn for this evening. So thank you very much for your time, committee, and we will reconvene at another time. Thank you.
Night.